What is going on, everybody? Excited to be here today to jump on, talk a little bit about cyber insurance, the convergence of cyber insurance with MSPs. I am supposed to have a guest this afternoon, and hopefully he can get on here shortly. Running a little behind, which is totally fine. I mean, that's definitely our lives. But as I get started here, would love to, if you're here today, if you're listening in, just jump in, say hi. I'm gonna bring up the chat overlay here. Would love to hear from you, see who's actually on the call this morning. I know we have a couple viewers here right now, so just jump in, say hi. We're gonna dive in with some interesting good content today. I think something that we want to um dive into. Oh, here we go. He has arrived. So I'm gonna bring my buddy Alex Farling in. Alex, what's up, man?
My man, I'm so sorry to leave you waiting. Somehow I was sure we were on at 3 o'clock.
We probably were. No, definitely 2 o'clock, but that's okay.
It's
It's
always
three
me. It's
o'clock.
okay.
It's 3 o'clock in the
Somewhere
middle of
in
the Atlantic
Bermuda. Yeah.
Ocean.
Yeah. I actually met an MSP from Bermuda this week. How exciting is that?
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I yeah, I did not. I was in Florida, which is kind of like Bermuda, but not as
It's
nice.
yeah, it's like
Wait, you
West
live in
Bermuda.
Florida?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't suck.
West Bermuda.
Yeah.
It's the proper name, West
Yeah.
Bermuda. I
Yeah,
like
that's
it.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah,
We'll go by
we
whatever
got
over here.
yeah, we got a bunch of people tuning in here already. I don't know if anyone's going to talk. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So we got the lurkers.
It's okay.
But I wanted to pick your ear because, and you know what, funny, the phrase "your ear." I had to when I was in high school. One of the lines I had to say in a play was "your ear," and I had to enunciate it very carefully because if you don't, it's your rear, which is not where you want to put things.
It's true.
So it's that phrase always kind of just brings me back there. But I wanted to pick your ear today, um, in
It's fun.
order to kind of talk through some of the
Brain is
I
a
don't know
safer word.
your brain. That's good.
Pick my brain.
Put a bug in your ear.
There you go. There you go.
Pick your brain. You
Yeah.
could pick your nose. Yeah. Anyway,
Careful with
um,
the bug too, Yeah, just be careful where you put that.
where, yes,
Anyway,
exactly.
there was content
Man,
here.
there was content at some point. I wanted to take a little bit of time today. We're not going to dive too deep, but I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk through, honestly, reframing, I guess, the cyber insurance component. We talk about it all the time. We do, you and I have, and Wes Spencer have done a couple boot camps now about cyber insurance and the MSP's role and how they can utilize it, deploy it, all that kind of stuff. Um, One of the things that continually I see is an MSP comes to me, says, "Man, cyber insurance is such a pain in the butt. I'm tired of it. It's frustrating. I get these client apps, all this kind of stuff." So I'm like, "Hey, we got all these awesome solutions for you. We can work you through this. We can have conversations here. We can help come in, do those things." And then they don't really move forward.
Yeah.
And it's not that they, it's not that they're not, they don't like fifth wall because when we talk to them, like, "Oh no, we love you guys. Everything's great." And I think part of the hiccup is the ask of saying, "Hey, you can't just." It's not just there's no easy button when it comes to cyber insurance. Unfortunately, there's kind of easy buttons, but they're not great.
Well, the easy
Um,
button is just put yes on all the questions and send it back,
so
right?
lie,
Yeah,
misrepresent
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. That's the easy button.
Yeah,
Yes. Misrepresent. We don't like the word lie. We're
misrepresent.
misrepresent. Yes, we were
Yes.
misinformed. Yeah.
So yeah.
There is, but that's the same thing with security. There is no easy button. By
Mhm.
definition, making yourself secure is almost making your life harder, right? Because you're
Yeah.
making the bad guy's life harder who's trying to impersonate you, to be where you are, to be who you are. Um, so there is no easy button. The easy button, the easiest button anyway, is just to get out ahead of it, right? And I was just at a VCIO university that was held at the ConnectWise corporate offices by Chris Ryan and a VCIO named Jim, who's helping him run that. And one of the groups, as we were wrapping up, they went around the room and just did what was your biggest takeaway? And one of the guys said his biggest takeaway was, I have to stop filling out cyber liability forms. He'd been doing them for his customers. And I think, the thing that we do that makes this so hard is we make it an us thing or a them thing. And we forget to make it a collaborative exercise. The minute that
Yeah.
filling out this form becomes a collaborative exercise and you get to sit down with your customer and say, I can't put the words in the box, but the reason you have to check no here is, and you're going to have to check no until you do this thing, it puts me on my customer's side. And it's the two of us against the big evil insurance company, right? Because we all know you guys are the evil ones. It's the insurance companies that are the bad guy, right? Or
It's
at least as
true.
MSPs, for my entire life, we've been looking for a foil. We've been looking for somebody to be the bad guy to come along and say, thou must do security correctly. Because I was just that big mean IT guy who was just a cyber bully, right? A nerd bully, and forced all my policies and such on my customers. Insurance is the great escape, right? They give us the ability to say, look, man, it's not me. I mean, I told you you need to do this. We've been talking about MFA forever, but you can't check yes on that box until you actually do what they're talking about. And here's the places that we're missing it. And see, this isn't just me being a bully. This is a best practice. And guys who have no dog in this fight other than just profits, right? Your insurance company just wants to be profitable enough to stay in business for next year. Their only dog in this fight is that you don't get breached and cost them a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And
I mean, if you
and
can
that
limit,
conversation puts me and my customer against the insurance company and really
yeah,
brings me in as kind of that trusted advisor.
that's it, right? I mean, you going all the way back to what you started with is it's it's a point of contact consistently with the client rather than, hey, I'm gonna email you my form, and I'm going to say, uh, hey, I need this filled out because it's due in 3 days, right? And now you're rushing because you're like, okay, this is annoying. I'm just gonna get it done. I'm gonna fill it out, bam, send it back to the client, and then we know the cascading waterfall of what happens there. Of,
Mhm.
oh, now the carrier says, not secure enough. You got to add these things. Now you as an MSP have, I don't know, a day
7
to
days,
get
yeah.
security control put in place.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and I've learned something in that, yeah, you know what? MSPs, you can charge more for an emergency project like that. But now guess who's frustrated is the client, because not only are they having to spend more money on a security control that they didn't originally have in their budget, but then on top of that, they're now paying more for it than they would have had they had the runway to get that thing in place prior
What
to
I
the
just said was,
renewal.
"Hey, MSP, you can charge more to do more damage to your relationship with your customer." Like, let's
That's
talk
it.
about the way to make this an add to our relationship with our customer. Our customers usually only hear from us when we want money or when something's broken and they call us, right? So flip it around. Call your customers. Get off this call. Write a list of your top 25 customers, your top 100 customers, whatever, and start at the top and just pick up the phone. Hey, you've got a cyber liability policy. It's going to renew. I'd love to know the date for that so that we're not stuck in a pinch. Then we can plan for what that renewal might look like. Like let's get a day on the calendar to talk about it 45, 60 days in advance. Let's just schedule that meeting today, Mr. Customer. Oh, you don't know when that is? Can you have your finance person pull the last time you sent them a check and maybe pull the contract and we can go back and look and we'll just be ready for it next year. Have just an out of the blue, like, hey, I don't really need anything from you other than just to put an appointment on the calendar way out in the future to make sure that I don't back you into a corner down the road. That's
What's
just
the
a chance
hurdle?
to engage with my customer.
But what's the hurdle? Because I mean, here we go. Andy Runyon, our MSP partner success manager, he's usually on this call, but he's actually doing a training with an MSP today.
He's not
He
training very
says, yeah.
hard, I see him. Maybe he should have been here, he would have been on time.
Shots fired. But but to your point, so we preach renewal dates. We will go out there. We'll say, hey, get your clients renewal dates. Know when they are. Know when those policies are renewing. Why are so many MSPs still in that reactive space even after being coached on this proactive place?
Because this isn't a
What's
widget.
the
They're
challenge?
they're face down in the widgets trying to code their way out of a problem or productize their way out of a problem, and they're not focused on client relationships. This is a relationship thing. This is a non-technical, just a task. Just like, hey, get the stuff on the calendar, do the stuff. But it's not a ticket. It's not in ConnectWise, so nobody thinks to do it. Right? We've been programmed as MSPs that if it's not in ConnectWise, it didn't happen. You got to live your day by your calendar. So my advice is put it in ConnectWise. Create a recurring event that'll pop up every year and remind you to go schedule these with all your customers. Delegate it. Right? If you can't get it done, delegate it to somebody in your team who you can hold accountable. But this is, I mean, all of this, the thing we've lost in our businesses is the relationship with the customer. And if we went back out and work to rebuild that relationship, it's an easy phone call. Right. Now,
That's it.
there's a guy in the channel who he's blown his business up. They're having huge growth. He has, and he's doing it all through sales, not through acquisition. Like, he's literally out there, 10 sales guys beating the street. One of the things he does that I think is so cool is every phone in his desk, or every desk phone in their building, says, "Pick me up, I make you money." And that's to remind his salespeople that picking up the phone and talking to people is not a dead art. It's not a dead thing, right?
Yeah.
Nobody likes a cold call, but my God, these are your existing customers. Just pick up
Yeah.
the phone. Hey,
These are
Will, it's
warmest
Tuesday.
of the warm.
Yeah, Will, it's Friday. I haven't talked to you in a month. Just thought I'd check in and make sure we're doing a good job. Hey, there's
Yep.
some things on my radar that I wanted to make sure didn't surprise you. Can we go over those real quick? Okay, cool,
Yeah.
man. Have a great Friday. You and the kids enjoy the soccer game this weekend, whatever it is you do. Like, hey, man, take care. Good talking to you. And what did we do? We just had an interaction that wasn't salesy. It wasn't techie and nerdy. It wasn't scary. It improved the reason the customer did business with us in the first place, which is because they know us, they like us, and they trust us.
Yep.
We forget to work
Yeah.
on those things because
Yeah.
we're nerds.
It's it kind of has me going back to when I first started at Fifth Wall. I had just come off of a financial advisor role where I was like, when you start financial advising, you have no clients yet, so every conversation is cold. Like,
Yeah.
and it's usually get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you because I have no relationship with you, right? And you want me to invest my life savings with someone who's never done this before? Like, it was that type of
I
pressure.
know what those conversations are like because I got like 50 of them on LinkedIn the day I sold Lifecycle Insights.
Of
Yeah,
course you did.
yeah, you mark that change and it's LinkedIn blows up. I had a lot of those
Oh my
cold
gosh.
conversations. Yeah.
Yep, I believe it. Um,
Yes, I would
and
love to
then I
invest my entire life savings with a guy who sent a templated email that looks just like the last 40 that I got. You're
for
in.
a guy who has never worked in finance before and is
Right,
just,
there you go, there you go.
out sniping.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I came over to Fifth Wall and Reed was like, "How does this sound? Every phone call you make is already to someone who we work with and likes us. You just need to talk to them about updates." I was like, "That sounds amazing." So it almost got me past this, and I understand for certain MSPs, I mean, phone calls are not dead, right? You need to that is
They are
the
dead, but we should
conversation point.
resurrect them. Yeah,
They
yeah, we
should
need to
resurrect.
resurrect them.
I'm all about
Um,
resurrection.
I
Um,
hired a
so
you are. Pastor Will, here he is.
but I cannot emphasize enough. So speaking as someone who, when I was in that financial advisor role, I almost got they call it like phone call paralysis, where you're just so anxious about someone saying no that you don't pick up the phone at all. And when I moved over to Fifth Wall, Reed was like, "Hey, look, as you're growing out of that, as you're moving out of that, the first person you should call is somebody you know. Just like pick up the phone and call your brother and just talk to him for 5 minutes. And it gets you
Yeah.
into the mindset of at least talking on the phone. Then that next phone call is actually a lot easier." And I was like,
Well, and I'll
I
tell
never
you
thought
all,
of that.
call your best customer first.
Yeah.
Call the one whose kid plays on your kid's soccer team. We've all got one of them, right?
Yeah.
We did business with people who knew us in our personal lives before were entrepreneurs and IT guys. I hired an account manager away from a competitive MSP at one point, and actually that's not entirely true. They laid off their entire client success team. They had some
Wow.
financial problems, became insolvent, laid off their entire client success team. So I got to hire an amazing client success person who comes in, and her first 2 weeks was just like, go out and meet your clients. Like, I'm just going to go let you go introduce yourself to people. I'll help you schedule the appointments. And out you go. She comes back like 5 or 6 days in and she said, something's not right. And I went, what do you mean? She's like, did you send me out to see like a bunch of cherry picked clients? Because nobody's yelled at me yet. And I was like, our clients don't yell at us. We would fire them for that. And she couldn't believe it. She's like, I used to have to go fight fires every single day because our service delivery was so bad. And I said, you
Wow.
know, it isn't that. It doesn't have to be that. So if you're the MSP who dreads it because you have a service delivery problem, then let's fix the service delivery problem. But if not, like if you have good relationships with your clients, just pick up the phone, man. And if every one of us just said the 10 minutes every day, first thing in the morning, first thing after lunch, first thing before lunch, whatever, 10 minutes a day, I'm going to call 1 to 2 customers. We're just going to have a chat. If I've got 50 customers, I do call 2 a day. I can roll through them all in a month, and I can start over at the beginning. How much better are you going to know your customers? How much are they going to realize that, hey, when Alex calls, it's not always to sell me something. It's not really with a purpose. Sometimes it's just to check in and go, hey, we had a new help desk guy, come on board this month. Did you notice anything different? Is everything okay? Did we change our service delivery? Are we still living up to your expectations? Customers still appreciate that. Your customer has a little bit of the same gun shy that you had of picking up the phone because they think every time anybody calls, they're going to sell them something. But if we can change that, if they understand that sometimes Alex calls just because everything's okay, yeah, Steven's right. Like it fixes a lot of things that are going on in your life. It repairs that relationship so that when you need some to pull back some political capital, you've built it back up again. When you
Yeah.
screw up, you can have that tough phone call because you've already rebuilt some political capital.
Yeah, that's huge. Um, and I highlighted it before, but Stephen Frank, pick up the phone and call. Customers like hearing from you. Um, they should like hearing from you. I mean, the number of MSPs I talk to who desire, and I kind of came into this. I'm a. You might be surprised. I'm a fairly optimistic person, but I'm also extremely cynical about things. Like when a salesperson reaches out to me on LinkedIn or whatever, the last thing I want to do is talk to them. I just
Yeah,
don't like. That's
yeah.
just my mo. I don't want to be sold to. Don't come to me. But
I'm a sales
so
guy and I
many
don't want to be sold to. I totally get it.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know the tactics, right? But,
Oh yeah.
when I talk the number of MSPs I talk to who see just the value of providing or the benefit of providing good value to their clients, and that's it. Like, when I come in, I say, "Hey, look, from an insurance perspective, like, you can't make money on an insurance policy if you're not licensed." They're like, "I don't care. This is a value add to my clients." Like, I understand how them knowing their gaps in their coverages, knowing what sorts of security controls they need to be better eligible risk for policies, like all that kind of stuff. They say, look, at the end of the day, like that's what matters to me, that they are able to get this understanding from someone
Mhm.
who gets it. Right. So there are plenty of MSPs I talk to who have that relational mindset, who have built that trust with their clients. So why aren't they picking up the phone and calling? Right. I think that it's such a simple ask of saying, hey,
Because
pick up the
yeah,
phone.
right, but we're engineers. We'd rather talk to a computer than a person. It's how we got in this business in the first place, right? So it
Mm,
is. It's something we have to get over. It's something we have to coach ourselves out of. And I would say, like, literally, just reserve a block on your calendar and say, "This is the time I'm going to call my customers," and do it every
yeah.
single day, and do it at the
Time
same
blocking.
time every day. And I had a customer who I knew when he called me, he would always call my cell and it was never a work problem. If he had a work problem, he would go to the help desk. I knew it. He would call me, I don't know, every 6 weeks or so, and he'd just go, "Hey, what are you doing around lunchtime?" And we'd just go to lunch. But
Yeah.
I also knew that he was working on the relationship. He was making sure we had a relationship. He was my biggest customer at one point. He was my second or third largest customer at one point, and then he bought the third largest. I think he was my third largest customer. He bought my fourth largest customer and became my largest customer. Um, and we would go to lunch and just relationship was good. We didn't talk about work. And then as we're wrapping up lunch, he would go, "What do I need to know about?" And I'd pull out a folder and go, "I need you to sign this quote. I need you to take care of this. I need you to do this. And oh, by the way, if you could deal with this problem for me." 3 minutes of work. He'd sign a $20,000 quote. He'd, just move on about the day. And off we went because we had a relationship. He knew
Yeah.
that I was looking out for his best interest. He knew that if he needed something, he'd call my cell and I would answer. Um, and and I had to train him to make sure that when he called with a technical problem, I would just go, "Hey, there's smarter people here than me for that. I'm going to transfer for you over to the help desk," and walk away. Right? Never fix his technical problem. But we forget that our customers really want to trust the person who they've entrusted with something as important as technology. And those relationships are just super valuable. So make the phone call this month, ask them about their insurance policy, get it on the calendar, create a ConnectWise configuration or whatever your tool is. Set something to auto remind you next year on this same date when it goes up for renewal. That's my advice to MSPs. And then next month, when you can't figure out what to talk to them about, call them and ask them what a good referral looks like. "Hey, Will,
Yeah.
you and I have been working together forever. Um, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I don't know what a good referral looks like. What's the ideal customer look like for you over at Fifth Wall? Could you tell me that? Maybe give me some info." Now, what I know as an MSP and as a business owner is if Will doesn't immediately respond to me with what a good lead looks like and Alex, how could I send leads to you and be a good friend to you? Will's an a-hole. Now I know Will's not an a-hole, but if your customer doesn't respond with that, there's something wrong there. You have a broken relationship. He doesn't trust you enough to send you a referral, but it immediately pulls these things right up to the top. And
Yeah.
you can have these conversations, and these are not hard conversations. None of those are antagonistic. They're not. They don't put our customer in an uncomfortable spot. It's just picking up the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Um, I want to go,
We got
two
we
things
got
you
to come
brought
up
up.
with a list of like 12 or 15 reasons that MSP could just pick up the phone and call a customer. We
I
should
know
literally
this would be
publish that.
so good. We could just create like a here's why. Here's like a list of conversation starters.
Yeah.
Because here's one of the things too, though. As there's all these, we're very busy people. Everybody's got a million things going on, right? So you can time block it in the calendar, and if that's not enough for you, literally set an alarm in your phone. For 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, I'm calling two clients. Like,
Yep.
keep it as simple as that, or something, right? Or
Yep.
9 a.m. every morning, you're calling two clients just to shoot the breeze with them. It's not even, it doesn't have to be one, it doesn't have to be a half hour long conversation. It could be 5 minutes. It's just a check-in, to build that trust, to build that relationship. I mean, coming from the insurance world, right? There was a situation about a year ago where we did everything that we do, right? So we went in, we did a policy review for a client, for an MSP client. We sat down with the MSP, we identified security controls that would help cut the premium. We got them a competitive quote. We got the client a quote that dropped them $20,000. So $20,000 less than they were paying on their previous policy, and they decided to stay with their agent and pay $20,000 more just because of the relationship they've built.
Mm.
So that was a shot in the gut to us, but it
Yeah.
also shows the
It's a
importance
reminder.
of relationship. It tells you that if you just come in and try and make a sale without having built that relationship, now there are other pieces, right? Like the client willing to trust the insurance agent over the MSPs or whatever. It's just the
Sure.
weird stuff. But at the same time, the relationship they had with their agent, they said, "Look, we appreciate everything you guys did. We learned a lot, but we can't split ways. Like we love this agent." So, and I get it. I mean, that's the relational business, and um, one of the biggest, I think, mistakes MSPs are making is, to your point, we're engineers. So it's like we're often missing the relational component of what this role is. That business
Yeah.
is relationships. Michael
Well,
Scott said that, right?
business relationships are one of two things, right? They're relational or they're transactional, right? And
Yeah.
if they're transactional, like we go to the grocery store, we buy groceries. We go to Subway, we buy a sandwich. That's a transactional relationship. They give us something, we give them something, we walk out the door. Your MSP business should not be a transactional relationship. If your customer views it as transactional, then they're not going to come to the table for things like this, right? And they're also going to engage in relationships with other people. And that's why at Lifecycle, we always used to say, like, if you're not talking to your customer, somebody else is. And so you're not going to get your way in these conversations. They're going to go lean on somebody else who has earned more of their trust and kind of become that advisor for them. You're always going to be backpedaling and struggling with that. So it's
Can
about
I
building relationship.
Can I ask you a question? Because
Yeah.
I kind of know your perspective already. Um, Niles has a point here in this comment. He says there are some basics I cover in my QBRs, but number one rule: no technical reports. I review hardware life cycles, employee training, then update. It's about their businesses and mine, right? So
Yeah.
it's relational, it's conversational. So I do have a question though, because you got a million different titles for QBRs, right? QX, P7, Infinity BRs. There's all sorts of them.
Yeah.
You got
We don't
business
care what you
reviews.
call it as long as you're having the meeting, right?
Right, as long as you're having the meeting. Here's a question, because based on everything you just said, is it enough to only connect with your client when there's a business review coming up?
No.
Because it sounds like what you're saying is you should be connecting with every client at least once a month, over the phone, you know?
I think every customer will tell you what the right cadence is, or working with them will tell you what the right cadence is. But
Mhm.
if you pick up the phone and call your customer and they go, "Oh, long time no talk," then you haven't talked to that customer often enough. Um, some of your customers don't deserve to be met with every quarter, and that's going to get
Yep.
somebody's hackles up. I'm going to tick somebody off. Your customer who spends $500 a month with you doesn't spend enough money with you for you to go give them a quarterly business review on a regular basis. You can't dive into strategic stuff, spend 2 hours preparing, 3 hours preparing, 45 minutes to an hour talking to them, an hour driving each way. You can't put that much time into somebody who only spends $500 a month with you. It's called
Yeah.
profit margin and it will disappear. So each client should get met with on the cadence that works for you and for them, that's appropriate for their business, for their risk profile. If they're uninsurable by cyber insurance because they're too risky, you probably should be meeting with them every month. If they're an easy, checkbox compliance for cyber liability insurance because they don't own any data, they're a simple business, their security is up to date, then maybe you can meet with them twice a year if they're a real small customer. But the point is, you have to talk to these people in between, or else they feel like every time you show up, it's with an agenda. And if they feel like every time you show up, it's with an agenda, that's because I want something and I'm going to give them something in return. I'm going to give you some new computers because you gave me some money. I'm going to give you a project because you gave me some money. And now we've defaulted back to that transactional relationship. And that's not the relationship that is productive and enables the strategic discussions that Niles is talking about. When we get into these strategic discussions, we're talking about, hey, what's coming up for spend for you next year and the next 3 months? And oh, did you know that in 2020 and 2021, 70% of technology of IT hardware was purchased brand new? That means that 2025 and 2026 are going to be huge renewal cycles, Mr. Customer. You're going to have to spend a truckload of money in 25 because you just bought all brand new equipment in 2020 to go do work from home, and it's all going to get old at the same time. Have you thought about that? Most MSPs haven't thought about that, so your customer certainly hasn't. But there's going to be equipment's going to be expensive in 2025. There's going to be shortages. The spend is going to be through the roof. The project workload on MSPs is going to be through the roof because you're going to have to replace all that gear. Start planning for that now. Have those conversations early. But these are just easy conversations to have. Hey, man, I don't need anything from you today, Will, but I just noticed when I was looking at your account, you bought 25 new computers. Of your 40 computers, you replaced 25 of them in 2020. That means in 2025, we're going to have to replace all those again. Do we need to think about leasing? Do you have enough cash in the bank to deal with that? I don't need an answer today. We're going to deal with that in 2025, but I wanted you to know about it. All right, man. Have a good day. See ya. That's all I needed.
It's really
Looking
good.
out for you, right?
Yeah.
Um, and
And I guess
I
in
joke that that's like a cyclical client relationship. Like my client loves me when they spend no money in 2023 and 2024, and then they hate me when they spend all their money in 2025 and 2026. It's like that MSP popularity chart, and
it's
it's
awesome.
cyclical along with spend.
It is. It is, but it sounds like, I mean, so you have these opportunities, right, to have conversations with your client where it's about showing value, but then there's also a strategy piece you brought in where, um, if you buy all new equipment at one given time, then every 5 years, you're or whatever the cycle is
Four
for that
years,
equipment,
whatever your number is, right? Yeah, it's all going
whatever
to
your
come
number
due
is,
again.
you're now paying a ton of money every 4 years as opposed to spreading that out over time, right?
Yeah,
And
my
I think
business partner Kyle likes to say "buy once, cry once," but what it really is buy once, cry every so many years, right? Um,
yep,
it's everything we do is cyclical. It doesn't matter if it's software, like you're right. You buy a software license, maybe you prepay for a year, maybe you prepay for 2 or 3. It's still going to come back around.
yeah,
And our customers don't think about it. Pain is really personal. If I'm a business owner and I spent $20,000 to buy a new server, that hurt me because I had to go
yeah,
home and tell my significant other we can't do that vacation this month because I had to buy a new server at the office and I can't take that money home. And so you'll go into your customer and go, "Hey, your server's about due for renewal or for replacement." They go, "It's like 18 months old, man. I just had to cancel a vacation for that." And when you sit down and show them the invoice, they go, "Well, really? Uh-uh. Oh, maybe. Yeah, okay, the kids were about this. Yeah, my God, that really was that long ago."
yeah,
But they hold on to it because it hurts because we
yeah.
don't plan, we don't think ahead, so
You
that
know,
it comes out of their fund money.
that has me thinking, going back to the very beginning of this conversation about the last minute renewals for cyber insurance, right? Is what ends up happening is because MSPs aren't being proactive, clients are consistently thinking about insurance renewals as these insanely expensive seasons for them. Because
Mhm.
they're, I mean, I just read an article today that said don't expect to see another buyer's market in cyber insurance in 2024. 2023 was a
Oof.
weird year. We saw a little
Okay.
bit of a premium flatten, a premium reduction for some people. This year, it's probably not going to be the case, right? So
Okay.
all of a sudden, you're going to see price increases again because the tax went up. But on top of that, if you are not being proactive around cyber, if you're not saying, hey, you know what? Um, I'm going to spread out the security controls that we need to implement for you in order to keep you a good risk to the insurance carriers over the course of the year. Then, when that policy rolls around for renewal, if your client is not prepared with the right security, they're now getting slammed with not only a non renewal unless, but they're also getting hit with an emergency project invoice that's going to cost them even more
Mhm.
than the normal project would have.
And their
Um,
MRR is gonna go
yeah.
up, and they're gonna be spending more every month thereafter, right? It's not just a one-time
Yep.
hit. So
Yeah.
and that's why we have to have those strategic conversations that Niles was talking about, because if he's doing that conversation right, he's able to sit down with his customer and say, "I'm not gonna mandate that you have this thing right now, but know that when your renewal comes up for your insurance, they may ask for it, or know that next year I might come back and say, 'Hey, this was bleeding edge technology the first time we talked about it, and maybe the second time. We've gotten
Yep.
to a point where this is really protecting us from a broad range of cybersecurity attacks, and I really need you to implement it now.'" And
Yep.
start to build those things in the future. Don't drop them on your customer. I always joke about knock knock. I need money, but that's how the typical MSP enters a room,
Yeah. You
and
know,
and
my
that's why their customers don't want to take the phone call and don't feel like they have a good
yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, if every time I'm talking to you, you're asking me for money, that's a problem. You know, that's how I feel about my alma maters for school. The only time I ever hear from them is when they're asking about me giving, and I was like, "Bro, you're literally I had to pay you tens of thousands of
For
dollars
the
to even
privilege of
attend
being
your
there.
hun
Yeah.
to be there, and now you're just asking for more money that I don't have
Yeah.
in the first place." So, sorry, maybe eventually, but not right now. But
Yeah.
here's a point. So, a buddy of mine, Abe, he put, uh oh, that's not it. That's Dean. Here it is. Sorry, Dean.
Dean
So
Sharp
with
too.
carrier
He's onto
requirements,
something there.
it's true. We'll go back. But with carrier requirements changing all the time, how do MSPs stay in the loop? That should be stay in the loop, I'm guessing. With what carriers care about at the current moment. For example, MDR is the new cool kid on the block. Okay, so
Yeah,
first
this
of
is a
all,
great question because in that VCIO course,
yep,
somebody said to me, like, they sent us a 120 questionnaire from cyber insurance for this year. Like, somebody sent them a really, really long one. And I said,
they're
yeah,
really long.
what you're going to find really interesting is that all of those controls on that don't even really matter, right? And you can explain this better than I can. Some of
Yeah,
those are just to fill up the actuary tables, right? So when somebody
yep.
gets breached, we know what all the people who got breached have in common.
Yep, it's all about a commonality thing. So it's the kind of thing where there are certain controls that carriers definitely want to see, but then they have this entire list of other things. Like, all right, well, if the majority of people don't have this thing if the more majority of people who got hit with an incident didn't have these things, and then the people who didn't have incidents did have these things, well, that's going to tell us what we should start requiring, right? Because that's all back end actuarial stuff. So what you see is this 12-page application that makes you want to claw your eyes out. And what's interesting though,
And you're
because
afraid of it
Abe,
when you don't understand it, right?
yeah,
But
definitely,
but to Abe's point, like, there should be somebody around the market that's helping MSPs understand
yep.
what's important and what matters. Do you know who that might be?
I don't know.
Like, there's a guy or a dude. Maybe it's that guy who was in here earlier and left. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe. Anyway, Andy, I don't know, maybe
Yeah, maybe it was Andy.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
he has
right.
good hair.
Yeah,
Um, but Uh, I'd be showing off my hair today too if it wasn't so cold in my basement. Um, but so to Abe's point, and this is funny because MDR is the new cool kid on the block for insurance carriers.
yeah.
Every MSP in the past year has been saying, "Oh, we really should be moving to MDR." We've been talking about pushing in the direction of MDR, and it came right.
Mhm.
You saw it in the cards. But to Abe's question and to our point before is and Abe's one of the good ones. Abe's he's technically cyber insurance wholesaler. There's other cyber insurance agents who we're buddies with too, who specifically focus in cyber insurance. So I know MSPs love to be parts of like business cohorts. I was part of one when I did financial advising where, you all get breakfast in the morning on a Saturday once a month and then you all talk about your businesses and you pass leads off to one another. And one of the biggest issues with those is oftentimes the insurance person there is your generalist insurance agent who knows nothing about cyber. So an
Yep.
MSP is now partnered with this generalist insurance agent who can't really direct them or give them any direction when it comes to security control requirements and whatnot. So my advice to MSPs is always align yourself with a cyber focused insurance partner,
Yep.
right? So if it's going to be a local agent, because I understand like the passing of leads and whatnot, grill that local agent and make sure that they understand the cyber component because you need to stay up to date throughout the life of your client's policy, not just at renewal when the carrier says, "Oh, you need these controls," but you need to be able to go to your agent and say, "Hey, so what are you seeing in the cyber insurance space? Like, are there security controls that are being required?" Like, you should be able to go to your agent and ask those questions. And if they don't know, it's time to find yourself a new partner. I mean, that's just
Keep it.
what
Follow Will Brooks on LinkedIn. And next time he starts talking about a cyber insurance boot camp, you should attend one of those
oh,
because they're pretty kick ass.
100%.
Yeah.
They're super fun.
Yeah.
Um,
And you get
yeah,
to have breakfast with your buddies. But But no, I mean, there really is a community around the internet that is keeping up on this stuff, right? And Fifth Wall has really taken the lead on that. I give you guys a lot of props for that. But it is about keeping in touch with the insurance people. Only reason I know anything about cyber insurance is because of people like you and Justin Reinmuth, right? And Justin was my insurance agent at my MSP because I'm really, really old, and he was kind of the first one that I ever found who was doing this stuff. But the guys who are keeping up on it are talking about, they're talking about it.
Yep.
So if you don't know how to stay up to date with it, find Will on LinkedIn, make him keep you up to date, right? You guys have some newsletters you send out and all that kind of stuff to keep everybody up on what's going on.
We got newsletters.
Um,
We try to drop carrier news in uh every one of our newsletters, just what we're hearing from carriers, what's going on, what are the reports. To Abe's point, we have carriers who are talking about MDR now. Like those are the kind of things that you start to see, and it's funny because we already advised kind of on. We've been pushing MDR for a while now, just because. I mean, I'd rather have someone monitoring my alarm system than just it making a lot of noise, right? I mean, that's
yep.
just naturally makes sense that it was going to move in that direction, and it has. But yeah, I mean, that's probably my biggest push is you got to stay up to date on what carriers are looking for, and this is where I kind of want us to hover if we can at the end here is flipping the script here, because the hardest part, and we started with this and I want to circle back to it, the hardest part is making this a part of your actual business process. So we talked about QBRs, we talked about whatever those business reviews are, and I always kind of push do I mean, you could call it an AIR if you want to, but just an annual insurance review of some kind where you're
Yeah.
saying, hey, you know what, 60 to 90 days out from that renewal date, it's time for us to look at your current
Yep.
security posture and align it with carriers are looking for based on your industry and your revenue, so that you can have a path forward and you're not getting sprung upon. And that's, for some reason, the hardest thing for, I think, MSPs to dive into, is to say, I need to add a new thing into what I've already established as my business.
Well, let's unpack that. They don't really have to add a new thing if we take a step back. If we're doing account management, technical account management, account alignment, VCIO, take your pick. You pick the title. But we all know what our best practices are. MSPs know what the best practices and standards are. I'm a CIS nerd, so I'm going to talk about it from the CIS perspective. But if you're following NIST or HIPAA or any of these standards, they all kind of crosswalk and they're all kind of the same thing, right?
Yep.
How hard is it for you to go through the CIS controls and put a little asterisk next to the ones that are insurance requirements? And then when you sit down with your customer and talk about CIS IG1 and the things that they should be implementing, you can say, well, you should do this because it's best practice, but it's also going to cost you more money come insurance renewal, or maybe cause you to get declined insurance renewal when this comes around, because this is one of the ones they really care about, right?
Yeah.
And am I right that all the big five that the insurance companies want are all IG1?
Yeah,
Pretty sure.
and they
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
leak over into IG2 sometimes too,
Okay.
but that's your boot camp prop right there, because we go
It's a
through those.
yeah, but it's an easy conversation to have with your customer.
Yeah.
If we're already talking to them about best practices, put an asterisk next to a couple best practices, right? When we were building Lifecycle Insights, we gave you the ability to put tags on a risk assessment question so that you could literally say, this is an insurance requirement. And that way, when you're sitting down with the customer and they're hemming and hawing and, two-factor authentication, it gets in the way, it makes me slower, my boss isn't going to like it, whatever. Well, your insurance company is going to mandate it. It's not just me saying it. Your insurance company is going to require that you have it.
Yeah.
And so it can be woven into a conversation that you already have. That said, you still need to reach out to the insurance carrier prior to that renewal to make sure nothing's changed, because we know they have a tendency to move the goalpost, and they'll do it without telling you, and then you'll go to renew and the goalpost will be in a different place. So you got to do a quick checkup just to make sure that they haven't moved the goalpost, fill out your forms, do the thing you got to do. But it shouldn't be that much work. You should be able to take almost all the answers for that assessment that the insurance company gives you and pull it from the assessment that you're already doing for your customer. It's just a little bit of crosswalking to say the insurance company says MFA everywhere, and I have 3 different controls in CIS that say MFA on local machines, MFA on network equipment, MFA on remote access, whatever. You can find those and match them up and pretty
Yep.
quickly get through that same piece of content.
Yep. Or you can take the fifth wall route and use our singular intake form and then never have to fill out an app again. That'd be
There
fun.
you go.
But
There you go.
anyway, that's
Bit of
the easy button.
yeah,
That's
it's
the
like
closest to the easy button you'll get.
yeah, I didn't mean to cue you up for one that easy. I try and make it harder on you, but
No, it's too easy. No, but I think to your to your point there, just taking the time to align with some kind of framework can be extremely helpful. Cyber insurance is kind of an evolving framework. Like you said, they move the goalposts a lot. But typically, and I'm going to say for the most part, because I do know there's some discrepancies, but for the most part, if you are compliance driven as an MSP, your clients are more likely than not going to be a fairly good risk to the carrier. There may be a couple of like small tweaks that would need to be made to make them
Yeah.
optimal, but you're going to probably be able to check the boxes that matter.
Well,
And
the
I
only
mean,
reason
IG1,
Yeah, the only reason the insurance companies are moving the goalpost is because the bar was set so low to begin with, right?
super
A
low.
couple years ago, it was like breathe on a piece of glass. Oh, there's a mist. You get insurance, right? They had to move the goalpost, but
Yeah.
the things they're requiring are not insane. The things they're requiring are the best practices we already knew. So to your point, like align yourself with a known and trusted framework. If you're all in on medical, then use HIPAA. If you're following the government and government contractors use CMMC, it doesn't matter. But pick a framework and stick to it,
Yep.
because the last thing you want in the event of a breach is to be able to say, well, I just kind of made up my own best practices. We were just winging it. Or I saw some bald guy in a podcast on the internet and he told me it was okay. That's not a defensible position, right? When you get put up on that stand and you get deposed as a witness and asked about that breach, you want to be able to say, well, I implemented known and trusted industry best practices that I got from the CIS or from NIST or from HIPAA or whatever, and we deployed them to the best of my client's financial capabilities. And when they ran out of money, we had to stop. That's a defensible position.
It's awesome. Yeah. So good. Um, all right. So we're approaching 250 here, 45 minutes. We're trying to keep it. Um, if you have any other thoughts there, Alex, before we wrap up here.
Look, we started talking about relationships with your clients and making sure that we build those. And I'll say the same is super valuable for your insurance carrier. Like if you don't have somebody in your pocket who you work with, and when I had my MSP, it was Justin. Like, and I say all good things about Mr. Reinmuth, even on your podcast. But if you don't have a relationship with somebody now, or if you have a relationship with somebody who you feel like might be a little out of touch on cyber because it is fast moving, and if it's not all they do, it can get away from them quickly. Love Fifth Wall. Like all the people there are amazing. They're the kind of people you want to build a relationship with. So follow this guy and like go be cool with him, and he'll take care of you.
Dude,
That's
high
all I got.
praise from Alex Farling. You don't get a lot of nice words from Alex Farling very
I
often,
just
so
call it
I'm
like
gonna
it is.
take
So if you earn it, you get it. If you don't earn it,
I
you
like
get
it.
what you earned. Yeah.
That's good. No, that's super awesome. Alex, I know you have people watching from your channel, but on my side, where can people learn more about you, or follow you?
Yeah,
I
they
guess
can follow me on LinkedIn. Hopefully, they can see that here. It's
LinkedIn's the
just
place to
Alex J.
go.
Farling on LinkedIn, or
Yep,
check out what we're working on over at empathmsp.com. We're really, really, really close to a fancy product release. So,
cool
if you
stuff.
go over there and sign up for the newsletter and stay in touch with us, we might even tell you about it when we're ready to go.
Were you doing an Ask Me Anything a couple weeks ago? Did I see that right?
Yeah, yeah, we did the sales based Ask Me Anything inside the
Nice.
platform. We do a lot of so we do one on cybersecurity, we do one on sales, we're doing one for service managers that we're getting ready to get started. Kyle and Todd Kane are putting that one together, but we're going to have them for basically every skill set or every job function in the MSP, because typically the owners have their cohort of people they can go ask questions to and commiserate with people who have the same problems as them. But then you get to the salespeople and they're off on their own and stuck with maybe a coach or whatever. Same with service managers and dispatchers and all that. We'd like to be able to get them together with people like them so that they can learn best practices and kind of grow and mature as a group.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, thanks again, man. Appreciate it. Hey, MSPs listening in, be on the lookout for a future boot camp. Hopefully, we're doing another one here soon.
it'd be
And
awesome.
with all that, we're signing off here. Thanks so much, and talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, Will. Appreciate you.
Yeah. See you, man.